Welcome back to another video. It's been a bit of a delay between the last one. I've just had a very busy time in life, professionally and personally. And I'm excited to get back into it, and I hope you are too, because we're going to keep going until this app is in the App Store. Before we get right into it, in the last video, we just kind of did a quick overview of kind of everything. Very quick, very brash, very just, here's what's going on. I feel like it would take many videos to do a clear picture. Luckily, we have all those videos because all of them are on YouTube. And, go go watch them if you want a more detailed one. But I think that was just a nice sort of thing to do because we're at a good spot. We've essentially, if we look at our planning document here in FigJam, we have a decent amount of the Explore working, right? We have our Explore list screen. We have the map as well. Now our, these don't look good. Nothing looks great right now, but data-wise, it's all working and it's proper. It's using Riverpod, state management. We have invalidation of data. We have the ability to edit things and, of course, create new ones just by going like this. We have a nice thing with our Google Places API, which works really nicely, and we built that server side so you don't have to deal with the CORS issues you get on web, because this will be a web app as well. What I want to now move into, although there's more we're still going to be adding to the idea of Explore, a lot of it actually is going to be based on this sort of model architecture we have, where we have the idea of a venue, but venues can have events, and events can have posts. So we're kind of doing in this top-down mode. So what we want to build next is actually the event model. And this will be fun because we're going to be kind of following the same patterns we've done already, just with totally different kinds of data. And then once we have at least the bare minimum of this working, we'll be able to bring it back into Explore, because the idea is when you're looking at a particular venue, you're going to see all their upcoming events and maybe even past events. And then when we get to posts on the feed, posts can be associated with both events or venues, or even just kind of live on their own in more of like a user-generated content kind of way. All that being said, we're going to jump into it, but I want to remind everyone the sponsor of this video is me. It is the fact that I have a YouTube membership program that rolled out in correspondence with this course or project or experiment or whatever you want to call this thing. And it's cool. We have a Discord. We're going to have members only videos. Sometimes I'm putting out the videos early, members only, and other perks too, other cool perks like custom emojis in the chat and all that good stuff, and more to come. So check it out if you want to come. Got a few of us there now, about a dozen or so, and it's been fun. We've been, questions about Flutter, questions about development, questions about this project or other projects, and it's a good time. So I would love to see you there. Okay, so let's get into this. I am going to open up our server side, and we're going to be starting there, because we need our data stuff before we can actually interface with it on the client. So let's just open up our venue model, just as kind of reference. And we're going to make a new model now. And we're going to call this, what are we calling these? Event. Yeah, event.spy.yaml. And here, we'll give it something called event. That'll be the class name. Its table will just be event. And it's going to have some fields, of course. Similarly, and we'll copy some of these, we're going to have a relationship to the user who created it. So that's how you do a relationship field. And this is our own custom user model. Remember, this is, if we look at this right here, which is linked to the built-in user info model within the auth module of Serverpod. But we want to connect directly to our user model, which has other fields. Currently, it only has a bio, but we're going to be fleshing this out more in the future. Fact is, we have the architecture in place and we don't have to do a refactor later. We can just add more things. So we definitely want that. We're not going to link this to a hub. Instead, we're going to be linking it to a venue. And because we'll know the venue, in theory, we can then, of course, get the hub that it's part of and so on and so forth. So it's going to be this, top-down thing, as I was mentioning a moment ago, where we start with, well, really, if we want to think of the whole thing, there's like the hub. Underneath that are going to be venues. Then there's events. Then there'll be, I guess, posts. Users are kind of in there as well on all, all layers. Okay, so let's take a look at our planning document here. So at least an event card, we can kind of start with that as sort of a thinking point. And the cool thing is we don't have to necessarily do everything now. We can kind of just have the bare minimum and always add more later. Serverpod supports migrations. But yeah, let's have a name that's a string. That's cool. Venue we've already done. Date and time, that makes sense. So let's have a do we want to have like a start and end? Start time, or let's call it start date time, or maybe starts at. I think that's kind of cool. And here we can just use the date time field. And yes, we're going to need a starts at. That's a requirement. Then, yeah, primary asset. What are we doing for assets? I think we already have something like this. Yeah, primary image URL. So we'll just use the same convention here. Types. Oh, yes, this is an important thing. So we're going to do this kind of with a few different flags. So the things I want to be covering here are sometimes open mics can be music, sometimes they can be comedy, sometimes they can be poetry, although I think it's very, I guess, yeah, no, that happens. Like there's like poetry slam nights and that kind of thing. So rather than like having a complicated like many-to-many relationship here, I'd like to just have 3 flags that can either all be true, they can all be false, or a combination of any of that. And we'll just use, I think, something like type, maybe it's like is music, for music, maybe, bool. I might rename these in a minute after I think about more. For comedy, bool. For poetry. And the cool thing about doing this is we'll, allow the ability to make, an event that's maybe like specifically for music. And then in our filters section on our map and in our list view and all that kind of stuff, we can basically be like, only show me the ones that, are for music, if that's all you care about. So yeah, I think that for poetry, I think that makes sense. Okay, bookmarking and RSVPing, we'll come back to that. Okay, we also have a description, so let's put that kind of higher up here. Description, string, description. Comments, yeah, comments, that'll be something we'll need, and posts, but yeah, that's not really something in this data model. It'll be a relationship from another model, so I think this is a good start. Now, something I want to think about is, before I like generate this and run it, is I kind of have this idea in my head. It's not really planned out fully yet, but it's kind of the idea of like an event template. So it's like I can create an event like this and give it, essentially like a lot of places they do like it's like open mic on Tuesdays at 9 p.m. And instead of having to make the user go and create one every week, I kind of like the idea of they create one event. I'll call it an event template, and with that, it essentially, the system itself will actually clone them for each week if that's how it's kind of set up. And I think all the stuff here is kind of more what we want in that. So I'm going to actually call this an event template. And we'll make the database table event underscore template, which I think is the convention in Serverpod. Let's find that out. We haven't really had a 2-word database table yet. So let's open up our database. Do I want to upgrade? Nah. This is fine as is. No, I want to go here. There we go. Open mic. Again, this is small. I know this is small. I just don't know how to zoom it. Okay, yeah, they're using underscores between things. So we'll just follow that. That's pretty standard in database design. Okay, table event template. So we'll call this event template. Then instead of starts at, I guess, no, we would still have starts at, although do they support time of day? I probably not. This is like a class. This is like a Dart class, or it's probably not even, it's not a native Dart class, but it's kind of like when you only want to know, you don't care what day it is. So I guess what we want to really store here is maybe we have a date time. We have a date time for the first occurrence, something like that. So when you're creating this, you set it for, it's going to start on Tuesday, this upcoming Tuesday, which isn't really the first occurrence because I imagine these people would be, having already been doing this for weeks. It's just their first occurrence on this platform. So maybe starts at is the best thing. Another way we could do this is we could have something called day of week, and this can be, we could actually do this as an enum. This is actually something I've never done in Serverpod, but I know it's possible. Serverpod enums. Let's see, enum. Here we go. Let's click this. Okay, so you can do this with the enum keyword. So do we create this in the same file? Let's find out. Let's see if it lets us. It's like, yeah, okay. So we actually make this another file. So we're going to make a file actually called day of week.yaml. And then I want to use this other than strings, just, oops, we want to make this .spy.yaml. And here we can actually go class and call it maybe day of the week. Might as well, like it's already long enough. Let's just rename that then, day of the week. It doesn't really matter if this is named that way, but we like to keep things consistent. So here we won't have a database table. This won't be stored in the database. Like in theory we could, but that doesn't make sense. And let's just paste this in. We actually call it enum, not class. Okay. And then for values, we're going to put, let's start at Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And times like this, I wish I had my AI bots on. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Oops. Hey, it's so smart. It's like you did Sunday twice. Okay, so here we go. I don't think there's any typos there. I believe how this will store in the database is just going to be like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. But it allows us to serialize this nicely and work with it in both the backend and the front end without thinking about is Sunday the first day, all that kind of stuff. So here I should just be able to go day of the week. Look at that. It's so smart. Let's also have a Boolean repeats bool. Now, I don't want to overcomplicate this in the sense where it's like it repeats every other week or on the first Monday of the month. Because in my experience, like these kinds of things, assuming they do repeat and aren't just a one-off, it's usually a weekly sort of thing. And in the case that there's a week that's that is canceled, maybe because of a holiday or someone's sick, like we're going to allow our users who own these events to delete, a one instance without deleting the whole template. This will also be used for one-off events by doing repeats false. So let's have that. And then, yeah, for first occurrence, I guess we do need to store this. So maybe we'll just call it starts on. And then what we do need to, there's no like date field, right? Yeah, okay. So starts on. I feel like we need to also store the hour. Because we're going to do this repeating thing. We could, in theory, rely on the date time object. Like say we said it starts at, yeah, let's just do that. If it becomes a problem, we can always add it. So like, let's say you set, okay, it's starting this upcoming Tuesday at 7 p.m. The system will assume that if it's repeating, the next Tuesday will also start at 7 p.m., that kind of thing. And if that doesn't work, we'll change it. Okay, I think that's enough. Let's just clean this up. We can also clean these up. I don't know why I give this all this extra space, but whatever. Okay. Okay, so there's our event model. Great. Oh, oops. That should be called venue. That would have been an annoying mistake to fix. Venue. Okay, name, Yeah, I think this is good. So now we will run our Serverpod migrations, and it's been a bit. So Serverpod create migration, I think is the word. I don't think we have to generate first, is what we learned. Yeah, so let's look at that migration, just for fun. So if we look at migration.sql, I'm curious what day of the week. So yeah, it's a big int, and that's just how it's being stored by an integer. I don't know why it has to be a big int. Like we have 7 values, but that's fine. Okay, cool. So we got our migration. Now let's run the migration. So to do that, we run we basically start the server with apply migrations set. In a separate tab, actually, there's no need to do this in a separate tab. We need to also still run our generator. Serverpod generate, so we got our client code and everything working. Hey, this is good news, everyone. There is a new version of Serverpod. I just learned today, right here. Let's take a look at that before we get too far. Okay, so let's go to Serverpod, change log. We'll just go to the Dart package, change log for Serverpod. Okay, so we have conditionally imports HTTP status to improve compatibility. Okay, and we have an improvement of encode for protocol method for list and map input type objects. Okay, I don't think there's anything there that's like critical for us to worry about updating now, but we will update at some point. So we won't worry about that yet. It's pretty easy to update. We just have to go into all of our YAMLs and change 2.01 to 2.02 and run some pubgets and all that. It's pretty easy, but we'll do it at a more pressing time. Okay, what is happening here? I see like there's something red in here. I think this is just a visual glitch. Yeah, I don't know what that is. Tell me what this is. Whatever. I don't see any errors in any files that we have open, so I think we're fine. All right, so we have that. Let's figure this out. So I'm going to open up our venue endpoint because there'll definitely be some similarities here. And this actually reminds me, we want to create just like we made a venue list, we also need to make a, what is it called? What do we call this thing? A event. And we're actually going to call this event template list.spy.yaml because it's not venue. So this is called event template list. Yeah, that makes sense because we're going to want to give the users, the owners of it at least, the templates to just modify so they can change it, in one place if there's like an update. And this will be of an event template list of those. Everything else is the same. Now, the thing that bugs me about this is like this could so easily, well, not easily, but like this whole like pagination class that we're using could just be like a generic where we're like passing like a T in, because nothing is changing. And I've tried really hard to make that work in previous like experimentation. And my best solution is just don't do it that way and duplicate the code. Because there's just problems with generics and the serialization and deserialization. And trust me, I really tried hard. Okay, so we have that. We want to go to our venue list. No, sorry, our event. I also want to rename this file just so it doesn't get confusing. Event template. And what we actually now want to make is an event.spy.yaml. So this is actually the instance of the event that everything will be tied to. Because when people are writing comments, we don't want them right to the event template because this is something that's going to be like reused weekly if we have repeats true. But there'll always be, this one event of this is the one that happens on, tomorrow as opposed to the one that is recurring, if that makes sense. So let's make that class event. What's the next thing we need? We need our, is it table? That's why I like to have things open. Yeah, table. Table will be called event. Fields. So here, we want to have our foreign key relationship specifically to the event template. So I'll just copy this. Event template. So we're going to have a relation there. It will be always a required field, although you just can't do that in Serverpod. So we'll just have to deal with it in our logic and throw an error. For some reason, it's null. And similarly, this should not be called venue. I almost made the same mistake again. We can call this event template. We could also just call it template, and I think that kind of makes the most sense here. Because what we can kind of do here is when we get the list of events, we can rely on the template for all the repeated information like music, comedy, poetry, all that kind of stuff, and not worry about it on the other things. So for this though, this will actually be we'll have the starts on perhaps as a date time, because this will be the specific one, right? This will be the one happening tomorrow. What else do we need? I don't know if we need anything else. We could have something like a description, like override or something. Let's make this nullable. So we'll just call it description, and that way we can kind of like in our logic be like, use this, if not use the event template description. So like maybe they're having a special event and they want to like call something out. We can kind of have this update. I wonder if we could do the same with name. I don't think we need to. I think that just overcomplicates things. Now these right here, I'm thinking about this. Obviously we can rely on this. There is a chance that, you know, maybe there's a special night where it is just music, just comedy, but I don't think we have to deal with that edge case right now. I think a lot of the times it is a repeated sort of, it'll be kind of the same. The only reason I'm thinking of putting this in here is for like filtering and stuff. It might just be more efficient if in our map filters we want to show, we're not going to be showing event templates to users necessarily, we're going to be showing the events. It might be nice to just actually store these here, like rasterize them on this field to make essentially the filtering easier. And then this does still technically give us the ability to have the user, oh, I want to just edit something about this instance of an event. Yeah, I can override it. So we'll set the defaults when we create these based on everything here. But yeah, I think that's good enough. Like in theory, we could have almost just copied this whole thing. But I don't think that's necessary. Let's just do this. This is a good start at least. Okay, so now we have our event model. So let's run the generate first this time, just to shake it up. And now we will create our migration. And let's run the migration. Cool. Let's look at our database just for fun. There's a way to refresh this. Right-click refresh. Okay. Let's look at our event template, for instance. Cool. Oh, look, we have a little icon for starts on. It's a timestamp. We have booleans for this. Day of the week. Yeah, it's just stored as an int. Okay, cool. All right. And then if we want to look at the other thing, event itself, it's going to have a relationship to the template right there. Yeah, I think we're good. Okay, great. Let's write some actual code instead of configuration now. Let's look at our venue endpoint. And, oh shit, there's one more thing we want to do. Pardon my language. We have our event template list. We also want to make a new file called event list.spy.yaml. This is not database driven, so we will not need to run a database migration. Let's just make sure this is just going to be events. But we do need to run our generator just to generate the client code, serialization, deserialization for this essentially. And then we'll start our server. We don't have to apply migrations though. Yay. Okay, so we're up. Okay, so I have the venue endpoint open up here because we're going to have some similar sort of CRUD sort of things here for, let's start with the event template. We need a template before we can do anything else. So we'll call this event template endpoint.dart. So let's go class event, event template endpoint. It's going to extend our endpoint class, or Serverpod's endpoint class rather. And I am going to just copy this. Here we go. But we're not going to return a venue list back. We're going to be turning an event template list. Template list. There we go. Same kind of idea. We'll get the count, but instead we need to actually use this to get all of them. Event template. We're going to count all of the event templates that are stored in our database. We'll be doing some filtering here because really we only probably are going to use it to send back the owner, the owners, but that's nothing we have to worry about now. Let's just get it working. So similar here. Just to review what we're doing, we're getting the count first because we want to know how many there are in total. Then we are going, hey, I want to find all of them, but I want to essentially only use the limit, of 10 by default, which can be overridden. And I want specifically page 1 so that we use this to calculate an offset doing this very basic math. We're using include. Essentially, what we actually want to include is our event template dot include. This allows us to essentially do like a join because we want data maybe to come back. If we look at our event template model again, event template right here, there's a couple foreign keys here that I care about. One of them is the owner. And in order to do that, we actually have to take whatever model it is. We go user dot include, just like that. Now, if we were looking at the user model, which right here, user actually has the user info model. If we wanted that information too, inside here, we would essentially like chain in user info into user info to include. But I don't want to include that because that's kind of like the private information of the user. Although some of it isn't, this is fine. So we want to include that for sure. The other thing we want to include is the venue. What venue is this part of? That would be nice to know. So we can do the same sort of thing, venue dot include. And let's just look at this because there might be some important things here. We can't do it that way, unfortunately. That would be a nice thing the extension could do, though. Let you click through to see it. Venue.spy. So they have a hub. We have the owner as well. We could decide that it's worthy to have this. So let's just do it. If we find it slowing down our queries or not needed, we can always clean it up. Okay, cool. Now what we actually want to send back is not a venue list, but an event template list. And look, we already have the count, we have the limit, we have the page, we have the results, and can load more is just a nice helper if, to basically calculate if we can load more. So there, we have our list endpoint done. Yay. Retrieve. This should be pretty basic. So we want to return not that, but an event template. Event template, dot find by ID. That's it. Save. We'll come back to save when we get, more working. Nah, maybe it's worth just copying. Because we kind of need to be able to create one. So this is going to allow us to create an event template. So we'll do the same user check. This is something there's going to be a lot of cleanup we're going to be doing at some point to refactor things because I don't love copying and pasting, but I want to keep things kind of on target and focused a bit. Okay, so here, let's find out what is being passed in. We don't want to have this. We want to have an event template, and we'll call this event template. It's really just, changing words, basically. That's all programming is. And here, we just want to check these. This is just to make sure that the owner of the venue, sorry, not the venue, but of the event template. And then, yeah, we just, event template. We just want to basically do this. And we grab our event template, which, don't we have this already? Oh, yeah, we should. I don't know why it's not auto-completing. We're going to grab that. And this is what we actually should be passing in here. And here, this is just like something, I forget why we did this. I think it was just to make sure that you couldn't just like spoof the data to essentially, because where's this user come from? Yeah, it comes from the authenticated user. Oh no, this was just not even to spoof it. This is like, because we don't want users to need to send up, oh, I'm the owner of this thing. We want to rely on their authentication tokens and stuff. So that's what we're doing in the create, but we don't have to in the update because it already has, it's going to remain the same ID. Okay, cool. So we have save now. Let's just search for the word venue. This is always a nice trick. Look for the word you've been replacing and make sure it still makes sense. These ones purposely were here. Just easy way to not, have a typo. We don't need anything about searching for places or map stuff. We're good. Okay, so that's our endpoints. Now, of course, more will be to come, but we have that done. So let's run our generator because we have new endpoints. Let's also add some comments here. That looks much nicer. And there we go. We now have our backend essentially ready for event templates. We won't worry about events yet. Let's get event templates working. In fact, event templates are going to be the more complicated thing. That's really where the form is going to be and everything and what you create. I mean, users aren't going to know like, oh, I'm creating a template. It's just kind of what we're doing under the hood. It's like when you create a Google Calendar event that's repeating, you're kind of creating the Google Calendar event template, and then it's kind of under the hood creating the actual instances when it repeats, something like that. So this is really where most of the work will be. And then what's cool is what I want to do is to get events working. Obviously, what will happen is when an event temp, we don't have the code here yet, but we will do that. There'll be something when we actually create it, like maybe I'll put the to-do here as well. To-do, create event instance. I mean, this actually probably isn't that hard to do. Let's just do it right now, I think. So let's just go final event equals event. And here we can actually pass in, ooh, we can't quite do this yet because we don't know we don't know the ID. Event template equals this, but we can't use this final created. I guess we can call it created event, maybe new event template. I don't really love the word new, but it kind of makes sense here. So we'll actually do that first. And this is what we want to return, is the event template, probably. But what we can do here is we actually create the event. So here we can use the new event template.id. Now we will have this like, oh, it could be null. So let's actually just wrap this in a check.id. If it does not equal null, then we'll like do this stuff. This should never be null, like if this is coming back successfully, but we just don't want everything to crash. Exclamation mark there. We already know it's not null. So starts on this one. Let's come back to that. But here basically is what I was saying. We're going to use new event template dot for we could also just use the event template that's passed in. I'm just thinking, is there anything that would ever modify this? Let's just use the new event template. So here we're just going to pass in and basically rasterize these on here. Dot for comedy, and same with this new event template dot for poetry. So we're just kind of like copying it, and this is really just to me like a query optimization. Having it stored on here is going to make our server and database and stuff work better when we're trying to filter. And yeah, we're just kind of copying whatever's there. For starts on, so this is kind of like we're creating the initial event. So we'll actually just use, I think, the new event template dot starts on. Then here's where I actually want to do the to-do. Schedule the next one. This we will come back to because we're going to use something that's kind of cool in Serverpod called, I think they're called future calls. And it's a way that it's kind of like doing like a async task or a cron job kind of, but you're scheduling it for the future. So you can actually be like, hey, do this task for me, run this code, whatever, in 7 days, on a particular day at a particular time. And what's cool is even if your server like restarts or breaks or whatever, it's actually stored in the database. There's actually a database table in Serverpod somewhere. I lost the database. Where did this go? Let's go. Let's find it. Serverpod future call. Yeah. So there's this database, and it actually just stores, the serialized object, which is, I guess, like what code needs to run or whatever. I don't need to connect to that. And whatever other sort of stuff it needs. So even if your server like goes down, once it comes back on, it still persists in the database. And that's what we're going to use because I don't want to like, I kind of want to do it where it's like, okay, when you create the first one, and this would be like if, and we can actually do this, if new event template dot repeats, then we would call this, schedule the next one. And my idea is that I haven't fully thought this through, but I think we will actually, how it's going to work is the code, whatever code we decide to run here is also going to have the code that schedules the next one kind of thing. So basically like, it'll be like, there'll be code to run to be like, it's going to basically create another event, when, let me try to explain this. We're going to schedule a task, and that task's job is to create a new event. But we don't want to like create it now. We want to create it in the future, which is cool. So we can use the future thing. And then that same task that we're scheduling in the future, its job at the very end is going to also then schedule another task 1 week later. So it's going to allow like, our database to just keep like essentially creating these events until, the owner of the event template is like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm out, and cancels it. And that will like we'll have logic to make sure it doesn't just keep creating them. Anyways, that's kind of my idea there. So we're gonna do that. But let's just actually get this saved. So we also want to save this to our database. So we would go event.db. And we know we're not updating here, so it's just insert row, and we're just going to take this event right here. So we're just going to event that. We're also going to await it just to make sure it happens. And then I think we are good there. We have our to-do. Yeah, that should work. Okay, now what's cool is I don't have to actually rerun the generator because we never change the shape of this function. We never change what comes out of it or what goes into it, basically. So that's all that we need to do. We'd have to run a generator if we made a change to that, so that all the serialization, deserialization can figure stuff out, and the client could be done, and all that cool stuff. But all we do is change logic within here, so we're good not to do that. Just a fun tip. Okay, so we have this started now. Let's just try creating an event. Obviously, conscious of time right now, we're not going to actually go through and create everything for events in the rest of this video. There's a lot of work, to do that. However, we can, play around with it and just kind of like make a hard-coded event. So let's go to our Events tab in the app, and let's go to our, we should have this event. So we kind of have some folders here. They're ready to go, and we have our event root screen. So let's actually just, we could use a floating action button, which is probably the way to go. So let's just do it. Floating action button. It's going to have an onPressed event, and it's going to have a child, and let's just make it an icon of icons.add, just like we're doing elsewhere. This will be an async event. So let's get that. Now we do need to actually set up some providers here. So let's just remember, again, it's been a little bit for me on how we're architecting this stuff, but we should have a venue service provider. So let's make something like that. I'm going to open this up for reference. And right, we also need a venue service. So that would be in services, or an event service. So let's set these up. And actually event, we're going to, even though like we have event and event template, we'll keep them within the same feature. They're very intertwined and related and wouldn't ever exist without the other. But we're going to still have an event template service.dart. You know what? In this case, let's actually just make it an event service.dart. And this will work for both events and event templates. No need to have them separated. Okay. So I like to, look at my code that I've already written and try and, make it the same. Event service. So we will have essentially this kind of stuff. Rename this to event service. Client, we must import. This is the Serverpod client. Cool. We're going to have a list. Let's list this. And we'll call this one list templates because that's really all we have right now. List event templates. List templates. Import either. Now what we want to return here is a event template list. Now we're getting a, this isn't auto-completing. We're not really getting anything. And that's because sometimes you have to click through to, get VS Code to understand. We could, of course, restart VS Code or even just restart the interpreter. Sometimes that works. But what I'm looking for here is actually, this should actually do it. If we go from here and click here, and we should see event template and event template list. Doing something like that is enough usually for it to find it. In this case, it did not. All right. That's interesting. Let me open this again. Event template list. Event template list. Just like super clicking, trying to get this to work. Did I spell it wrong or something? Template list. Okay, what we're going to do is restart our analysis server, which I think fixes it as well. There we go. That fixed it. It's now not complaining. Yay, look, we have it. Or it at least knows what it is. That's amazing. Okay, list templates. So here, instead of this, we're going to use the event template endpoint to list. So, there's really not, it's basically the same code, right? Which is kind of cool because we're just, convention over configuration or something. I'm just going to put a comma there. It looks a little bit nicer. So that'll get us our list of templates. What else did we have in our service? We had retrieve. Yeah, let's just do that one real quick. So we're kind of just, creating the client-side code of really what we just made in the first part of this video. So this will return an event template. So let's actually call this, retrieve template. Event template, retrieve, and event. We should probably make sure we have errors. Yeah, okay, we're cool. Okay, there's our retrieve template. That is working. Save. Let's also put that one. And we'll make sure to call this save template because we are going to be using these for both. Event template. And yeah, just copy and paste this. And we want to name this, event template, so it's not confusing. And from here, we're returning event template. Look at this. Like, it's almost like we could create a code generator or something to, just do this for us. Okay, that's what we want. Now, while we're here, we could also stub in the event endpoint stuff, but we haven't made that yet, so there's no need. Let's just put a to-do stuff for actual events. And in fact, it won't be just like this. We'll never want to save an event, I don't think. Maybe we will. We might want to wait. Yeah, we probably will actually want to wait to override, like we were kind of talking about before. So yeah, we'll probably have all three of these for events as well. But we'll keep this all in the same service because they're so intertwined. Okay, so now that we have this, we need a provider. So we'll go to our providers, new file called event template event service provider .dart. And if we look at our venue service provider, we're basically going to copy this again, and we're going to just rename this to event service provider. And this is going to return a event service. So let's just do that, event service, which need to import. And here we do this, and we'll call this event service ref, and we'll call this event service. And we don't need venue being imported. Okay, so we'll save that. Make sure there's no typos. Looks good to me. We will run our generator, which I like to just do with this build runner extension. I'm going to, just run it as a one-off. And hopefully we get this lovely, these lovely colors coming back. Yay, wiggly lines are gone. We are good. Okay, cool. So we're making our event service. Everything's great, which means I think we have everything we need to actually do something in the UI. So we've created this floating action button in our event root screen. And here we can go, although this is a stateless widget, let's convert this to a consumer widget. Just have to import a couple things, one thing. So now we have access to ref.read. So we'll use our event service provider. That's how we can talk to our service. And we can do something like save template. And here we need to create our event template, which again, for now, we're just going to hard code one just to see if this actually works. So here we'll go event template and the owner ID. Let me just make this a little more readable. So owner ID, we'll just use our ref.read. Wait, what is my owner ID? Since we're hard coding this, I'm cool just to just also hard code that instead of actually getting it because it's just temporary anyways. So let's figure this out. User. So I signed in with, how do I get to the data? Right here, data tab. I signed in with, shit. Okay, let's see this one. That's the one, Tyler 3. Okay. No. How do I go back? How do I go back? I'm sorry, I don't love this program, but it's free. And I do love free. Its ID is 3. Shit. Okay, let's figure this out. Public user. Wait, this is user. Oh, it's like I have some weird thing open. Properties. Tables user. But this isn't the user table. This is the This is the user info table. It's like something expanded. How do you unexpand? How do I go back? How do I go back? Okay, maybe I'll just close it. There we go. Okay, this is the one I clicked on, I think. You know what we can do? We can find who the owner is of some other model that we have, and then we'll know for sure. So let's just go to our venue and look at the data. The owner ID is always 1. We will use 1. Yay! Venue ID. We have some venues here. Let's also just hard code that. Let's use venue ID 2 just to shake it up. Hard code test description hello world starts on. So here we would do datetime dot. I mean, we can just do datetime dot now for this test. We'll do repeat true to see if it actually creates the event. That would be nice if it did. Did we create the migration for that? I believe we did. If not, we'll get an error. Day of the week. So let's try this. Day of the week dot. Today's Friday, so let's do dot Friday. Awesome. Primary image URL is going to be nothing, just a blank string. Let's do, yeah, it's for music, comedy, and even poetry. Okay, I do want to test to see if we have I think we do. Did it actually create our event model? Yes, it did. Okay, or our database table. All right, let's try this out, guys. Let's try this out. Obviously, there's not going to be any feedback or anything other than maybe some errors that show up in here, and maybe errors server side. Let's make sure our server is running. It most likely is. This is not what I meant to click. We want to go to events. We want to click plus. Okay. I mean, I didn't get any errors, at least there. We didn't get any errors here. Let's go here and let's go to event templates. And look, we have an event. Yes, an event template. All the data that we put in, amazing. And I think what's extra cool is if we go again back, which, how does this work? Okay, click tables, and let's go to event and click on data. It did. It created the event of, yeah, basically using the exact same time, which makes sense. So this is actually the instance of the event, and that is the other one. Oh, right. Where are we at? 47 minutes. That is perfect. I think good time to wrap this up. Obviously, we're going to continue working on this. We're going to get our lists and detail views and all that kind of stuff, and it'll all be great. However, I think in the next one, just to kind of take a little bit of a breather, I think we're going to do a little bit of some other stuff that I have in mind, things that have been bothering me, and we'll see. There's also a chance that you'll come and be like, oh, we're just continuing and moving forward. I don't know. I'm making it up as we go. That's the fun of this project. Thanks again for watching, and we will see you again.